In 2013, an anonymous Canadian man posted a unique series of videos to a YouTube account under the name Chiron Last. In these videos, titled The Golden Web, this man dives deep into the structure of our language, examining how our words have multifaceted meanings when examining their etymologies as well as their translations in languages beyond English. It was evident that hours upon hours of research and writing went into these works. Viewers were fascinated by the intricate mind of Chiron Last, how he was able to pinpoint synchronicities within our languages. The conclusion Chiron reached through all of this research indicated that humans are not what we think we are, and this planet is not what we think it is. This suggested human beings play a role similar to batteries, fueling energy to something beyond our comprehension. This man's ability to convey these intense ideas in a calm and collected manner resonated with a lot of people, and the Golden Web series generated hundreds of thousands of views. In the next few years, Chiron Last posted further videos containing presentations of text he had written, making further connections within our language and what these connections mean in the greater picture. But in 2023, something changed with this account. Chiron Last's videos were no longer scripted. He was no longer presenting text of his written works. In fact, he wasn't visually presenting anything at all. His videos just became black screens, and you could only hear his voice, talking about ideas as they came to him in real time. The audio quality declined. He revealed he was now homeless. A more concerning tone was heard in his voice, and his calm and collected manner dissipated. He spoke of warnings to humanity. He suggested mass chaos was imminent. He emphasized that time was running out. He spoke of being in preparation for something, that he was going to start a walk. The walk, he called it. And when he would begin that walk, everyone would finally see his face because the impossible would be made possible. Questions upon questions were building up in the comments. What is going on with Chiron Last? What exactly is he warning us about? What is going on with humanity? Tick-tock, people wanted answers, but time was running out. And time had run out. Because in September 2023, the Chiron Last account was removed. His whereabouts remain a mystery. Fortunately, someone had archived every single one of his videos and posted them to an account called Chiron Last Backup. Though I was familiar with the Golden Web, I only recently learned about what happened to the creator of this account. This sparked curiosity into going deeper into his works. I embarked on trying to make more sense of his 5 most seemingly influential videos, as well as the videos with just a black screen and his voice. He stated anyone is free to do as they wish with his content, as he did not put a copyright on the truth. He made clear he did not want his works to be seen as entertainment or infotainment. Therefore, we are not looking at artwork. We are not looking at literature. We are looking at something far, far deeper. We are looking straight into somebody's soul. Chiron indicated humanity is in a position far darker than most realize. He indicated we are not what we think we are in this realm. If you have seen The Matrix, you will see he does reference this film on occasion. However, this film hardly scratches the surface of what Chiron presents. If you are not familiar with any of these ideas, what you will hear may all just sound blatantly schizophrenic. I cannot sugarcoat this for you. You may find this just absolutely crazy. Naturally, ideas that are not familiar are going to come off as unfamiliar, obviously. Regardless of how you view these ideas, the necessity is to understand why you view them the way you do. The only conclusion I personally would want anyone to derive from this is to come to your own conclusions and not just copy what Chiron Last or what anyone else tells you. What is presented here is not necessarily my own personal perspectives. I clarify this as I will occasionally state some of Chiron's written text verbatim. I will be firing off a lot of information, some of which may not make sense until later on. And yes, I do acknowledge an obvious criticism. If I miss the mark by attempting to summarize this information, then those with knowledge miss the mark by seeking out said summary. Everyone here right now, myself included, is here because we are still trying to make sense of what this all means. To even attempt to summarize the magnitude of this information is a challenging feat I cannot take lightly, so this needs to be viewed as a high-level introduction rather than a high-level summary of this man's works. But who is this man? And what happened to him? What happened to Chiron Last? The Golden Web Part 1 begins with talking about the nature of definition and questions how our language and words are structured. To use the key to understand what words actually mean, 4 things need to be utilized. The basic definitions of the words being looked at, etymology, which is the study of the origin of the word, phonics, which is why the Phoenicians are tied into phonics, thus Phoenicians. For example, the letter C, sea, and sea is the ocean all sound the same, but they have different meanings. Finally, to use the key, word splitting will be necessary, and that's basically where we take a portion of a word, such as the prefix or suffix, and we look at alternate definitions within that to see if it links to other languages. Word splitting itself can basically be brought down to the very letter of a word. So of course, he looks at the etymology of the word language.
What is definition? Is it simply the determining or settling of something, or a statement of the meaning of a word or a word group? Or is it something else? Is it also a definition? To be a dephonician means that one stops at what the words are defined as in the dictionary and doesn't look into the deeper etymology or the phonics of what the word is actually saying. It is my intent to give you, the listener, a key that has been hidden by the secret societies of the world, such as the Knights Templar. An easy example of word splitting can be given by using the word language, where we would have lan, gu, and age. When we take lan in its Chinese and Vietnamese context, it's actually the feminine name for orchid. But in Vietnamese, with an accent over the A, with lan, we actually have a different male context with a creature called the Kai Lan. And that was a dragon-type creature that was said to only protect the noble ones, and it was also known as the Ki Lin. Gu is the god of war in the Dahomey mythology. So now we have 2 tie-ins where we have a monster that protected the noble ones with Lan, and Gu, a god of war. So Lan Gu, and age is obviously through the ages of the zodiac, or how we age through this reality. So thus, Lan Gu ages, languages, would mean that we have a monster that protects the noble throughout the ages of the zodiac. So who or what exactly is that monster?
He runs through the names of the days of the week, how they got their names and what they mean, indicates there is no Earth Day. He looks into the process of commerce. It gets into the magic of the number 7. There are 7 planets giving us 7 days of the week. There are 7 notes in a chord and 7 chakras in the human body. The prefix sep means 7, and there has been a separation in our reality. The word matrix translates to the word womb. When Neo woke up from the Matrix, he found himself in a battery womb, aka iPod of sorts. We are all in iPods because we bit the apple of sin. Chiron will use the terms DVD and iPod, which are a bit of a product of its time, showing that these works were written in the early 2010s. He draws on parallels to the Matrix film and doesn't even touch on all the translations and intricacies of that film. He encourages people to research that on their own.
Let's first look at how one is born into the world, or whirled into the world. Why are we whirled? First off, from a pedantic perspective, this should be obvious since the world is whirled on its axis. The writers of the Matrix movies also knew why, because the main character Neo is actually derived from the Latin word neo, that means spin, weave, or produce by spinning. How this process works in our reality is similar to the way the colors on a DVD movie are read by the DVD player. Each color is separated and read at different intervals of time. This is an exact correlation to the different distances of each planet from the sun, and the different lengths of time each planet takes to whirl around its own axis while also being spun around the sun.
So related to the Matrix, Chiron relates humans to batteries. He gets into how during our death we are presented with a white light terminal where higher dimensional life forms try to persuade us to go into that light. He shows that 4-minute clip from Star Trek portraying a woman having a near-death experience, showing how something is deceiving her, presenting itself as one of her family members, and trying to get her to go into a white light terminal. This is quite similar to many stories of those who have gone through near-death experiences.
We are the endless resource being mined, and companies do not have human resource departments because the title sounds fancy. You are also the ore which has an oar because you are the body ship that needs to paddle through this existence, which is a sea of electricity. Doctors use paddles to resuscitate someone who is in cardiac arrest for this reason. What do they use to resuscitate the patient? Electric currents, just like the sea that has currents. What else do doctors do? They perform surgery because it is an electrical surge to the body of the patient, thus surgery. The doctor is also the connection to the body, ship, and sea terminology, since the doctor has delivered the doctor, an oar that is sitting in its berth and no longer rowing. The one that is going to be sold as capital currency, which is electric and sea-like currency. You see? Once the human is birthed, they are also docked in by the docked hence docked. What is It was an ancient Sumerian city that housed what was known as the ziggurat of also called Nigiru. This word meant house whose foundation creates terror. Everything in this reality is designed to make us fearful, and this starts right at birth. Interestingly enough, the patron deity of this city was the Akkadian moon god known as Sin, and it has been said over and over again to humanity that man is born in sin. Man bit the apple to then be continuously reborn in his and her Apple iPods, which becomes an unrepayable debt. What is the Merriam-Webster's #1 dictionary definition of the English word debt? Sin. To pay the debt of sin, which is the price of our birth and birth in the moon. Remember that the 7 days of the week do not include an earth day, since man is truly born in sin, the moon. The ancient accounts and stories of the man on the moon is literally about mankind in the moon. We are all the children in the attic, so to speak, and this will become clearer as we go along. First, we are born and begin to be used as battery energy, as the French language agrees, since the French word borne means pin, terminal boundary, stone, as associated with the Vietnamese word pen, meaning battery, and the Hebrew word is shown for pin. The stone that is the terminal boundary is the moon. This use of the word pin is the reason that banks get you to use a PIN number when using a bank card. Don't quite agree yet? Well, the Spanish word borne translates as terminal and point of a connection to a current of electricity. When people travel to and from airports or bus stations, where do they arrive and depart? At the terminal. When people vote, where do they do so? In a voting terminal or a polling station. In actuality, people are voting, not voting, because they are going to the polls, which are the electric battery poles of positive and negative, to place their votes on the candidate that they want to see put in charge. The politician that receives the most votes is the one that is going to be put into the position of power. It's not called power politics for nothing. So far, the listener might be saying to themselves, "What?" Precisely, what? A watt is a unit of power that is equal to 1 joule per second, and this correlates with the situations when people say that someone isn't very bright because they need to ask the same question over and over again. What? That person is said to be dim because they are not enlightened. You could, of course, refuse everything that is being shown, but that just creates a negative ionic polarity charge within your own biology, hence to refuse, because a fuse is an electrical device that can interrupt the flow of current if it becomes overloaded. I trust that this will not confuse the listener.
We see some horse connections. Your parents give you a name, which phonetically sounds like neigh. You live beside neighbors. Your parents usually get married, which sounds like mare-eed. The word marriage translates to divine oath to the moon. He compares the word male and female to concepts in postage. A male, delivers something to a female's mailbox, Gets into how frequently the letter X is used and what it represents. It is the Roman numeral for 10, which contains the numbers 1 and 0, representing the matrix binary computational hologram we live in. X is also the chromosome present in both sexes. We live in this existence because X is tense.
The post office delivers the male X into the double X box of the female to immaculately deliver another child. Why immaculately? Since everyone is separated by their iPods and living inside this hologram reality. We are all physically separated, and our pineal glands literally make this computerized dimension seem so real that basically no one would guess that it's not. We connect with one another in the telepathic field of electricity consciousness. Our genetics, therefore, have to be stolen from us by the guardians of the garden, by having us imagine telepathically that we are congressing with one another. This is the worship of Satan, because Satan is Satan. X is the Roman numeral for 10, which is indicating the X chromosome. And once a male and female have delivered their belief in copulation to their Lord and Master, they both say 10. Once this occurs, the genetics from the couple are taken by the guardians, Smiths, and transferred into another biological form, which is then placed into their own iPod to continue the battery cycle. This is why love is evil, spelled backwards. Because we are the wards that have our energy sucked from our backs, hence the back wards.
He compares the X and Y chromosomes to concepts in electrical engineering. compares genetic processes to that of battery-operated feats of engineering. X is the symbol used in electric terminology for the reactance expressed in ohms, and Y is a three-phase, four-wire electrical configuration where each individual phase is connected to a common point of the Y. Gets into the purpose of the moon, as well as the Sol, spelled S-O-L, which is not the sun we are familiar with, but is instead some kind of dead sun. Gamma, which is the Phoenician letter known as Gimel, is the shape that we see in the Freemasonic symbol of the square, as well as in the NASA logo. Guess how many degrees is in that red symbol in the NASA logo?
The moon is the craft that is being sent to rescue the next recruitment of souls, which is why Freemasonry is called the craft. This is all about the regeneration of the dead sun/sun. What does the Freemasonic G actually mean in their symbol? It is derived from the Greek letter gamma, which produced the letters C and G. The English letter G in the word Sol translate into Greek as this word, which is pronounced as Sol. Sol is the sun, but not the yellow sun in the sky that everyone is familiar with. It is the dead sun of the left-hand path, as shown in the Turkish language, where Sol translates into the Turkish word Sol, which translates into English as left, Sol, So, and G. The letter G in the English alphabet is the seventh letter, connecting with the aspect of the sacred number 7. There is no doubt that there is a dead sun that we are feeding and providing our energy towards to be resurrected, as detailed in countless mythological stories such as Isis and Osiris, let alone every religious story that humanity has worshipped for countless millennia. The dead sun/son of Jesus. Is this dead sun Saturn? Not necessarily, and this is what I will be proving out as we progress through this occult knowledge. The Freemasonic story of Chiron building the Temple of Solomon has everything to do with this, since it is really the sun that is being recharged through the repetition of the sexual reconnections and rebirth processes that take our plasma energy to keep Sol on through our electrical ohms. Thus, we have Sol Ohm on.
The dead sun that feeds our energy used to keep itself plugged in, as depicted through ancient mythologies. This information is so wild, people will usually just brush it off. Either that, or it will be misunderstood. There is further symbolism within the letters X and Y, but he states he will save that for a later video. Marriage is a common topic discussed in this video, and he talks about the marriage oath. The word groom is translated from horse groomer, and the word bride is translated from the word brood, which means to sit on eggs to hatch them. A bridle, B-R-I-D-L-E, is headgear put on a horse to control it. The way words are spelled reveals a lot about the words because words truly are a spell. The spellings that spell out this nightmare for us in our life sentence while being written in cursive by the controllers of the story because it is a curse against all of us. Do we live on a planet or do we live on a plan? E.T. mentions we are awake. A wake, W-A-K-E, is a track left by a ship when it travels in water, and also someone who keeps watch over a corpse before it is buried. Like water, we are flowing in time to our death while we are awake. When a woman conceives a child and first becomes pregnant, she misses her period, and therefore she states she is late a period that is missed to begin a new life sentence. The etymology of the word garden has ties to the word Kronos. The god Kronos ate his children. Are we in the Garden of Eden, or are we in the Garden of Eaten, as in nom 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 nom? The farmers of this humanity encourage everyone to produce another fetus, because fetus is phonetically feed us. The word existence is also phonetically eggs is tense, calling back to that idea that we hatch from eggs. iPods. Gets into some bee connections, suggests the kind of honey we produce is the true meaning of the golden web.
Let's not forget that after each marriage, the couple will have also gone on their honeymoon, because it's an oath to the moon to make more honey for the queen bee in the United Kingdom on this Plan ET. The married couple who just got hitched to the marriage wagon, who are going to produce another product called a baby, who will be able to make more honey. What kind of honey? We'll get to that, because that is the true meaning of the golden web and the secret of your electrical existence that they definitely do not want you to know.
Also makes some pumpkin/moon connections in how this all relates to Halloween rituals. He starts getting into how systems of law operate in relation to electricity. The court is the ground where charges are brought against you. If you get charged, you may have to go to a prison cell relating to battery.
If not at work, there are police officers who are ready to take down the bad batteries at any moment, because the police are really the police, ready to arrest anyone who might be revolting against their handlers or controllers. In electric terminology, an arrestor is a short form term for the surge arrestor, a device that limits surge voltage by deleting it. That's what the police do to the revolting criminal. Delete him or her from society until they face their charges in court. If the police are rough, the person that is arrested might say that the rough handling hurts them. This would be correct, since when something hurts, it hurts, because a hertz is a unit of frequency. Remember also that court was derived from the Latin ortus, which means garden, hence the guardians of the court.
There's deeper meanings in concepts related to commerce. He compares money to religion, stating that money is the greatest one-world religion to have ever been invented.
In business, we hear about companies beating their competition because the legal definition that is used when someone gets beaten and brings their oppressor to court to face those charges is called battery. In commerce, it's one battery against another, and someone is going to get beaten. The same holds true for sports, which is why in baseball, the combination between the pitcher and the catcher is quite literally called the battery. So, battery up. When we buy and sell things, we are traders of humanity because we are traders. A trader is a trader because one person's gain is automatically another's loss. Can we not all see that this is a system based upon hatred? The more that one gains, the more that another loses. When you see someone with $1 billion, how many others literally have nothing because of that one person? An uncountable number. Yet this is what mankind applauds and is mentally conditioned to love and favor. Did these people who are stock market and business traders work 1 billion times harder than everyone else? Take note that it's also called a stock market because we are the live stock that are being sold on it by the traders. Yes, when something is sold, it is sold because we are literally selling our souls when we treat our fellow brothers and sisters of humanity like enemies in the game and competition of the religious death war known as commerce.
He defines the word metonymy and why it is important. A metonymy is a metaphor that gives a person a simultaneous understanding of two separate things. This is how information can be hidden but still remain in plain sight. He talks a lot about why capital letters are used. Tombstones always carried the name of the deceased in all capital letters.
The first metonymy we receive in our lives is literally our name. This is the identification stamp that we associate ourselves and others with because it is our appellation, the apple of sin that we bite where we forget who and what we truly are in substitution for an identity or id entity. Id is the Freudian psychological term for the subconscious, which correlates with the Hungarian del, meaning south. We are stuck in the paradigm of the southern chakra energetic system, the Hotel California of the Eagles, where we checked in but can never leave. The id is the reason that every government on this plan ET needs you to carry around ID. They need everyone to identify with their name, and not their higher awareness. Why is the birth certificate spelled in all capital letters? Because the baby is now a piece of liquidated capital that came through the liquid water of the mother's birth canal at birth. To liquidate something is to sell it off entirely or eliminate it to pay off a debt. Everyone on this plan ET is automatically eliminated at birth to pay back the dead. You are turned into capital money, which is why capital is capital.
Gets into some ice connections, gets into banking and how it relates to both water and electricity, and the deeper meaning of what it truly means when we sign a mortgage. Everything is the formation of dualities that work against each other, that constantly split us off and mix us up. This allegory was present in the book of Genesis. The word Genesis translates to the regeneration of human genes, aka the genes of Isis. This is a breathing process going on in humanity that involves continuous inhales and exhales, rising and falling of our civilization. It mentions that Christ talked about being the salty electrical connection of the dead sun, as shown in verse Matthew 5:13. Which is him telling everyone that after your salty electrical connection is used up and your biological battery is dead, you are not useful to the alien gods. He adds a passage from one of Zechariah Sitchin's books, translated from ancient Sumerian texts, Tablet 13, the lost book of Enki, which tells that the age of the bull, Taurus, was ended 216 years early to be taken over by the age of the ram, Aries. The latter portion of the text gives instructions to find a righteous and worthy man to preserve the seed of mankind. We then see the scene from the sequel of The Matrix where Neo is talking to the architect. He mentions there are 33 vertebrae in our spinal columns, and he will be going extensively into the spine in a future work, as well as the significance of the number 33. He compares Rome to Washington, D.C., stating the DC stands for direct current. And then he finishes this recording with the chorus of the song Man on the Moon by R.E.M.
The dead in Saturn are technically on ice, which is why the basic definition of a birth is to hold an office or off ice. If you are listening to this right now, you are off ice, holding an office of birth. Those in the various law movements may want to take notice or not ice of this fact, because the two birth certificates are representing all of us in two actual capacities or capacities. We can take notice because right now we are not ice. Here is a Freemasonic secret of the 33rd degree. What is the temperature of 32 degrees Fahrenheit when converted into Celsius? It is 0 degrees, which is the freezing point. The 33rd degree would be when water has begun its melt enough to be brought to the point when they shall see us, Celsius. The human form is mostly water, and thus at rebirth you have now been brought off ice. That is just one aspect of the 33 degrees. If the dead debt is not repaid, the banks will send the loan sharks because it is still about water. This is also why every business tries to keep healthy cash register floats. In terms of electricity, the water carries the flow of electrically monetized currency that recharge the dead, because it's the watts of that are making it happen, hence watt-er. So the debt and dead get buried in the electrical banks of Saturn, where they earn interest. Why interest? Simply because to inter something is to bury it, and it is the dead that have been buried and put to rest, hence interest. The ultimate reset point, game, set, match. The Federal Reserve in this battery racket game called life. Everyone is paying for our demise by participating in the acts of commerce throughout the week. Yes, you and I are the biological slave batteries that get weak throughout the week, which is why you need a few days off, because the biological battery has become weakened. A weekend off is needed because the body has become weakened. Weakened equals weekend. All the salaries are kept track of by the secretaries, because they are all holding the secret of Aries, which is often depicted as a dragon. The red dragon of Aries, as talked about by every ancient culture that comes to destroy and cleanse the world at the end of Pisces. Yes, that's right. We are not in the age of Aquarius, because the world hasn't been flooded out yet, which is why the ultimate reset game match point is brought in by the water bearer of Aquarius.
In the Golden Web Part 1, Chiron Last alludes that this is a glimpse into how members of secret societies communicate. Are these societies really that secret, though? I can drive 15 minutes up the road and get to a Freemasonic lodge. I know that's what that building is due to the giant sign outside of it indicating it is a Freemasonic lodge. So these are not necessarily secret societies, but they are societies with a lot of secrets. There are secrets in the way they communicate with each other. And what is the best hiding place for something other than hidden in plain sight? The words these members use are no different than the words we use, but the meanings they use are multifaceted. It's all dual meaning. It's all a play on words. As cringe as this may be, it's all puns. When one looks at the totality of what it is and asks themselves if it was really all just puns, they will realize it always was. So some closing thoughts. This work suggests humans operate like batteries, as depicted by the examination of our language. Terminology in commerce, law, marriage, sex, the moon, and Saturn all hint we are being treated as livestock or electrical engineering mechanisms to something extraterrestrial. The Golden Web Part 2 begins with Chiron talking about the significance of the heart. Heart is the hearth, the word earth with an H in front of it. The sword and the stone is a metaphor for our spine-heart connection, as will be shown in this work. The age of Taurus was 2 ages ago. Taurus translates to cross red. Related symbology, of course, is the Red Cross organization we are familiar with, as well as the symbol for the Knights Templar, which is a red cross. This symbolism, in turn, is related to Saturn. We see a lot of one-eye symbolism because this is telling everyone that one of our eyes, or suns in the binary system, was taken away from us. Yes, there were previously 2 suns in our sky in the past, but one was taken away, killed, blotted out. The other sun in our sky, aka Saturn, was referred to as Chiron Last. Show some text of the Freemasonic allegory of Chiron Last, where the age of Taurus was ended 216 years early with the demise of the second sun. The story represents the last 3 ages of the zodiac: Taurus, Aries, and Pisces.
The earth itself is heated by the hearth of the heart, and it appears that it's going to be in for a little more fire when the Aries dragon makes its return visit again. The Aries dragon that is symbolically alluded to by the flaming sacred heart of Jesus that everyone is working so diligently to resuscitate. As was detailed in the ancient Sumerian texts, the age of Aries ended the age of Taurus 216 years early to usher in a time of despair and eventual destruction. This forms the basis of the Freemasonic allegory of Chiron Last, who is killed by the 3 ruffians, which are the 3 rough ages of Taurus, Aries, and Pisces. The last age of Pisces is embellished by the Savior Jesus, sending us a message, because this is the last age where everything is made into a mess, thus the mess age. Have you received the message in this mess age? Take a look around at the world and see the mess that humanity has created, which is getting worse by the day, therefore necessitating a cleanse from the red dragon. The Tao of Taurus is the Tao of the Chi. Tao is Tao. And the loss of the second sun has meant that we no longer have our true balancing life force at work with us. It was taken away, killed, and now it needs to be resurrected. This is shown in many symbols, including the yin-yang black-white duality that controls the polarities of this battery cycle that has been forced upon us. Another symbol is the black and white checkerboard pattern of Freemasonry. Black for the dead sun/sun, Saturn, and white for the living sun that everyone is familiar with in the sky. It may appear yellow to our eyes, but it truly is white hot.
In CPR, cardiopulmonary resuscitation, the etymology of each word translates to the heart of God being recharged. We see text stating that Jesus is a humanized symbol for the dead sun, sun spelled S-U-N, not S-O-N, that is going to be woken up by all of us from our commercial charges. This character is a depiction that is based upon a process happening within this matrix. We see an image comparing a heartbeat monitor to a stock market ticker.
The recharging of the heart of Osiris, Jesus, etc. is done through our electrical zaps given through our monetary taxes, shown by the Latin word tax, which means zap. The Azerbaijani language also denotes this as related to the word pulmonary, seeing that the translated English letters of PUL in that language means money in cash. Where do the zaps occur? From the moon, which is the egg of the impregnated bride of Isis, who made all of humanity into her golden phallus, so that she could become pregnant by Osiris again. The Mon in pulmonary shows us that it is the moon which is charging up the dead sun lover of Isis by using all of our energy through the metonymy of Mon-E, charges that are done in commerce. Everyone is quite literally paying for their own demise. It is a demise by fire, as shown by the Maltese language with the word nar meaning fire. The pulmonary electrical fire that is going to jumpstart the heart of God once again. The heart that is an apple is also related by the Turkish language with its word mara, translated into English as pomegranate apple. The suffix of nary in pulmonary is an English adjective that means not one. If there isn't a 1, then there is 0, because the egg of the moon of Isis is the round 0 that is looking for the phallic 1 to consummate the marriage, and this will occur when Osiris/Jesus has been resurrected. I am going to say it again and again, because this is extremely important. Resistance is assistance. In the battery energy cycle, resistance is crucial when making the sine wave energy pattern. The more happiness, the more sadness is required. The more rich, the more poor, and on with every duality example that could possibly be given. Without resistance, there could not be duality, and therefore the battery energy cycle would cease to function. Everything is going to continue increasing in the duality as the years progress onward. Truly, it will be the best of times and the worst of times at once. While many suffer and go through hell, many others will be partying, laughing, and thinking that everything is awesome, and they are blessed. Resistance is assistance. Resistance is assistance.
A lot of people call themselves awake, but they fall right into the trap of the system. The system wants you to call yourself awake. Chiron begins talking about the reset point of death, and talks about how the media and elite often reference this reset point. Right now, we hear a lot about this great reset that is going to happen. We see a movie clip from the 2009 film Terminator Salvation, where John Connor is talking through a walkie-talkie, trying to get in contact with others in what appears to be an apocalyptic wasteland. In later videos, we learn Chiron resonates with characters going through things like this. Talks about the significance of the number 22. Humanity is in a catch-22. 22 divided by the planetary number 7 gives you the number pi. In tarot, there are 22 trump cards. The book of Revelations ends on verse 22-21, meaning the next verse would have been 22-22. Many have experienced the 1111 phenomena, such as seeing 1111 on a digital clock, the sum of these numbers being 22. Why is this? 2 plus 2 equals 4, which is the square, and this is the circle of life being squared by Saturn because we are all boxed in by time. The etymology of the word occult connects to the Latin word accumbo, meaning to meet one's death, as this is what the occult is very fascinated with. When people say amen at the end of prayers, they are acknowledging the hidden aspect of death. The hidden aspect is that death is not the end, but is instead a reset point. There is a paradoxical nature in our reality. Chiron keeps stating 1 can never equal 0. Slavery can never equal freedom. The Freemasonic black and white checkerboard is a symbol of these paradoxical dualities. They are the complete opposite dualities of good and evil and the paradox of this construct. And another occult meaning of the symbol is that the pattern represents the binary code of our matrix. The controllers of this reality are fishing for spirits in the sea of the dead/dead. Many corporate symbols show the aspect of fishing for spirits by using the moon. DreamWorks is, of course, the most recognizable of these symbols. The entire poem of the Iliad by Homer is an allegory about the regeneration and rebirth cycle of humanity going through the Trojan horse/whores moon construct. Some concepts related to the moon and concepts related to time have very eerily similar translations. The Freemasonic compass symbolizes the hands on the clock. You have the minute, moon, and hour, Saturn/Horus. So humanity has been coerced into participating in systems of hatred, such as war and commerce, because commerce is also war. War against nature and war against humanity. There can be no love in competition, and money only divides everyone in the system even more. It will never cure the ails that hurt so many, because it is not meant to. He gets into the deeper meaning for spines and backbones, which translates to interweave, intertwine. twist. The spine is the equalizer between the opposite polarities in our biological positive and negative battery cycle. The spine antenna is our receiver transmitter that sends the electrical signals up to our brain so that the brain can process the code and enable the senses to respond to the input of electrical stimuli that is being sent from the mainframe matrix computer of Saturn. Because the spine does this, it is in actuality the mark of the beast, or arc of the beast, since it floats us through this electrical reality construct. The symbol of Baphomet is related to this. Baphomet, according to Gnostic texts, literally means absorption into wisdom, because we exist inside a living computer hologram that is eating our consciousness to gain ever-increasing amounts of wisdom and knowledge. We see an interview snippet from physicist Richard Seed where he states, "We are going to become gods." The story of Jack and the Beanstalk is an allegory where the stalk is the human spine and the beans are the pineal gland and the kidneys. The protagonist's name is Jack, as this relates to electrical engineering concepts. He starts examining grammar. Our language is made up of characters, which is also the name of a person taking part in a fictional story. The death and rebirth cycle has similar elements to that of a story, a theatrical production of sorts. All the world is a stage. Even the court system has similar elements to that of a fictional story.
Throughout life, we become fond of certain characters, because the characters are also the fonts, which is why we are fond of certain characters and not others. Many families are developed, and a paragraph is by definition a family of characters, as shown also by the suffix word graph. That means a visual representation of the relations between certain quantities. That's what a family is, a visual representation of the relations of a certain quantity of family members. A specific number of family members within their quartered paragraph space that contain a number of different characters who are trying to get along and be fond of each other, while also attempting to find their place within the dynamic of the storyline structure. The paragraph that exists on a certain page or pages within the book of life with a family that is graphed on par with each other, hence paragraph. A page is a servant and slave, and the etymological roots of the word family correlate with this, since it is derived from the Latin famulus, meaning slave, servant, house of slaves. Sometimes family members have to move forward in this life story without each other, since a widow is definitionally the last line of a paragraph that is printed alone at the top of a page. An orphan deals with this misfortune as well, seeing that it is the first line of a paragraph that is printed alone at the bottom of a page. If you do not like this book, the other characters who accept this Matrix story will call you weird and crazy, which is also why the jurisdiction of the court is going to book you a date into a building that is a certain number of stories tall. Because this is a tall tale with the same sentence that is going to be repeated over and over again. A sentence handed over by the judge that heard the case from the characters, because every character is either written in uppercase or lowercase. That's why there are lower courts and higher courts who understand the different levels of case law. Before someone is booked into the jail pen, they are read their rights, because a book is read from left to right by the one who writes it. These rights are the right to remain silent, because the story writer is going to write you in as being silent, because to the gods, silence is golden. In the meantime, you must play your part, and those who have repeating sentences that get it will potentially be pardoned or have a part on the world stage again. You are one of the cast members, but not the author, because only the author has the authority to change the draft of the script. And just like war with its compulsory conscription soldiers, this book is about struggle, strife, and death, which is why you have been drafted. Unfortunately, it is a final draft, so any protesters are simply going to be censored. We are only meant to copy our orders, and if we copyright, there are rewards. Words, of course, are actually words, because this is the word of God, and He's got us by the hook, a narrative trick used to keep us reading this story. We are so caught up in it that everyone has forgotten what happened to put us here in the first place. When arrested for a crime, the crime that didn't rhyme with the storyline, the criminal is put into a paddy wagon, because a pad is a large number of sheets fastened together. This is why we sleep under sheets and blankets in bed, because the pillow is the pill that is going to take us low, into the subconscious realm and put us to sleep while we fill the blank sheets with the story of our dreams. They are called dreams because reams are large quantities of written matter, where 20 reams equals 20 choirs. A choir is phonetically a choir, which is a chorus of people assembled to sing together in sleep for Saturn, as shown by the word Horus in chorus. We never reach the chorus because we are stuck in the universe, the single universe of this fishy storyline that keeps putting us on repeat. Put on repeat by the time god Kronos, who is the father of this matrix. This is why the Dutch word Piet literally means godfather.
He includes a clip from the film Angels in the Outfield, where Al appears, Al being short for alien, perhaps. So batteries are acidic. An acidic pH level of 1 equals phone. pH, O-N-E, pH 1. A pH of 1 is the in-breath aspect of this breath cycle humanity goes through. He starts talking about this breath cycle of this reality that lasts 1,000 years to rise and fall, references the rising of the phoenix. The word phoenix also has letters for pH 1 in it. There's text showing Revelation 23, referencing that 1,000-year cycle of breath, rising and falling of civilization. He lists ways the powers that be are creating environmental havoc to get us to a pH level of 1. As the soil becomes more acidic, it will become more difficult to grow food. This will lead to mass levels of starvation and bring about anarchy. The symbol for the Eye of Horus is a 9, which looks similar to a lowercase g. The Freemasonic G stands for left sun. The letter G translates into many languages as Sol, spelled S-O-L. He refers to some more electrical engineering concepts. 1 watt operating for 1 hour is exactly 3,600 joules, and there are 3,600 years to the Nibiru orbit. He references Zecharia Sitchin, an author who wrote a lot on human origins. Finally, we get into what the golden of the golden web means. The gold is golden blood plasma. There's text showing Genesis 3:22, which is a verse that is not talked about enough. Not everyone knows about the other tree in the Garden of Eden. Take also of the tree of life and eat and live forever. If the number 322 sounds familiar, it is indeed why the secret society Skull and Bones uses the number 322. They are referencing Genesis 3:22. The word magistrate, which is the public official designated to take questions brought before the courts, is a word that was derived from the same word as magician. During the Exodus, as told in the Bible, characters were blessed with this food called manna, which just showed up one day. It is described as food of the gods. This is thought to be liquid honey plasma, and biblical scholars depict manna as sweet and aromatic like honey, and also having a dirty yellow color.
What is the secret elixir of immortality? golden blood plasma. There it is, the secret to eternal life and the actual basis for all of the vampire folklore. It's not the blood that they are drinking, it's the golden blood plasma, which is also known as ichor, or the rarefied fluid said to flow in the veins of the gods. Plasma is the main component of the sun, which is why it is necessary for sun creation and recreation, because life is a play and a game, which is also called recreation. Recreation equals recreation. For plasma to exist, ionization is necessary, which is the positive and negative binary cycle of this reality, or to know both good and evil. That's why we see the word ion within so many words, such as relation, abduction, solution, celebration, expression, tension, invasion, and thousands upon thousands more examples. We are in Zion, making the gold in Oz, because the anagram of Zion is in Oz. It's in Oz because Oz is the abbreviated term used to measure weights of gold and silver in ounces. Oz equals ounces. Let's also link this directly back to us, being the heroes that make this plasma gold for the gods, since the Hungarian word uz literally means roe, deer. The heroes that mine for gold, which is created through the ionization process that occurs because of the spine, as shown by the Hebrew word mushve, that means equalizer, which was shown to be connected through the word splits to this reality and our spinal column. The spine is the equalizer that creates the plasma, because plasma is the electrically neutral medium of positive and negative particles, since its charge is zero. The spine produces the amber, which is the golden honey plasma, created by having more children after the marriage honeymoon. It is the sap that is licked up by the gods, as shown by the relation of ligator in the Latin word ligurio, meaning lick up, while we are trapped inside our honeymoon egg pods, as detailed by the Latin alligatus and alligati, meaning slaves who are fettered, binded, detained. Detained by the vampire gods who suck on our tree sap, which is their garlic. This is also shown in another related Latin term, allium, meaning garlic, and gar is the German term for cooked, because our spinal fire cooks up the electric amber that makes the spinal tree sap. Garlic is garlic. There is your secret recipe and elixir of immortality. This is the 322, Genesis 3:22, of the Skull and Bones Secret Society, because we mined for gold in the bones of our skull. The tree of life is our spine, and the gods saw that if we ever became aware of the electrical energy being produced by it, that we could eat from it and live forever. Lest we put forth our hand to do so, something unspeakable had to be done, and this is shown by the dash at the end of this biblical phrase, which is called an aposiopesis and means a sudden silence. This indicates to the reader of this passage that the result of what was done to humanity was literally unspeakable. Regardless, this unspeakable thing was accomplished. And when the gods came down to confound our former single language of telepathy, they proceeded to create every language that humans now speak, which are all interrelated and connected to each other on such a profound intellectual level that it nearly seems impossible.
He uses some further terms as to how batteries operate, and again relates these two terms in our biology. That was a lot of data to take in. If you hear all of this and think, man, this Chiron Last dude needs some fresh air, he needs to get out of the house, well, have no worries, because he definitely gets out of the house. And we will see how.
There are 7 days in the week, and no Earth Day is included in the names. Does this not blatantly state to everyone that the Earth is obviously not worth celebrating? Or is this just blatantly stating the fact that the Earth has been tuned to an altogether separate frequency, and we are not on the correct vibratory channel that we should be on? As it stands currently, there is no Earth Day, because the 7 named planets of the week are the ones responsible for our rebirth and regeneration in the time duality program of life and death reincarnation.
The Golden Web Part 3 begins with recapping the significance of the phoenix that will rise again. 1080p resolution, which is what most videos are now presented as, relates to the radius of the moon being 1,080 miles. There's some connections to the word pond. Galaxies are ponds in the time wave matrix, and when we are tossed into this particular galaxy, we no longer had the ability to tap into our multidimensional capacity to move through dimensional time freely. This is why time only moves forward for us now, just like a pawn on a chessboard. He compares the time matrix field to a chessboard. Again, this is why we see the checkerboard in Freemasonry. The symbol found on your palm is called the Gimel, which is the 3rd letter of many Semitic alphabets. The etymology of this word translates to justified repayment, indicating that those who have pawned us feel they are justified in what they are doing by having us repay our debt through this existence. There is a solution. He explains what the word nowhere means.
The dead go to the moon, and death is what puts us on ice, since phonetically Isis, the moon, is Isis. Our death is the winter slumber, where we are put into a Zen state when frozen. This is why when we are birthed, we hold an office, because an office is off ice. That's our life and death duality in this matrix, where we go to and fro Zen. This is where we become thawed out through our thoughts, because the phonetically concealed meaning of thought is thawed. The word nowhere is beautiful, because it states everything. We are now here. And it is also telling us where to go. Know where. Know where to go, which is in neutrality, now here, here and now, where our power can no longer be divided and stolen. That's what it means to divide and conquer. With confusion and profusion, there is created the circumstances that lead to energy extraction as created through the rebirth program, with the Latin profusio, meaning libation, discharge of bodily fluid, and confusio, translated as mingling, mixture, union, disorder, troubling. Attachment to the prearranged order of this place is probably the most potent form of control that is used against everyone. Through attachment, we give our emotions and energy to the construct, which is then siphoned and used against us in a chain loop reaction. One has to ask themselves, can I let go of all traditions? Can I let go of the familiar? Can I let go of the known? Can I let go of the ideas that I have about myself and others? Can I let go of consumerism? Can I let go of false ideals and dogmatic tenets? Can I let go of fear? Can I simply let go? When people ask for remedy and solutions, it seems that there is this conditioned idea that the media, mainstream science, the medical community, and education have propped into the minds of so many, that there is a magical pill formula that will fix and cure all that ails and everything can be corrected. There is no such thing, because all of those false fixes are from sources that are outside of you.
There are some pieces of advice to let go of this prison. One piece of advice is to stop celebrating your birthday. due to the occult symbolism involved in it. This era of New Age thinking is often full of lies. This form of thinking tells people their spirits chose to be here, and this planet is supposed to be a learning experience. Well, imagine learning a skill one day and then the next day you don't remember anything. Each morning you wake up, you don't remember anything from the day before. How exactly would that then be a learning experience? How would that help you mature? Chiron states that the outside savior system that the powers that be push on us distract us from finding the solutions within ourselves. Some who abide by the outside savior system may even hope for an apocalypse to happen, just to prove their savior was the correct one. Now, I am by no means a lawyer nor a financial professional, but another piece of advice he provides to let go of this prison is to stop paying taxes. He points out that all fiat currency comes from the Federal Reserve banks, which we also refer to as the Fed. It is called the Fed because we are feeding them our energy. So if you have an employer that automatically takes tax off your check, then stop filing your income tax return. There is no law that states you have to pay taxes, only a statutory act that implies that the capital name associated with you has to pay tax on income. The people enforcing these ideas are the ones playing dress-up. People in positions of power often wear costumes like it's Halloween. He shows some pictures of government officials all dressed up, and honestly, I couldn't help but to laugh how wacky it all is that the officials dress up the way they do. I mean, it is at least a little silly if you think about it. There's the true meaning behind the Statue of Liberty. Under this symbol, we are all statue liber, slaves with a promise of freedom that is subject to conditions. That's why we have liberty and not freedom. Liberty is temporary leave granted to a sailor. We are the sailors/seamen/seamen that have been granted liberty in this matrix, but not freedom.
In regards to the freedom that we are promised, what are the conditions? That one has followed and obeyed every single statute of Troy statutory act that has ever existed in the land of legal fiction and not broken or bent any of their rules even once. Doesn't seem likely, does it? Yet, the single most important observation that needed to be noted and maintained was to never prostitute oneself out to the public in any form to the shame and disgrace of our internal nature. This includes every action in commerce, including buying, selling, and working for a paycheck, especially a paycheck that involves the all-caps name.
There's then 13 minutes of just plain text without his voice, making further connections. He states this has to be read multiple times to fully make sense. As Chiron is trying to bridge the gap between the elite and the multitude of mankind, he provides a quote by Nicholas Poussin. A single word suffices to illuminate connections which the magnitude cannot grasp. Such works are available to everyone, but their significance addresses itself to an elite. Above and beyond the masses, sender and receiver understand each other. Talks about how his words will only be heard by a select few, and that everyone is prostitutes, and this entire system is ultimately just prostitution. Again, there's a comparison of religion to commerce. This circles in a lot of grocery store terminology. Each of us receives a bar/sun code of Saturn when entering this construct. This contract is put on anyone who is born in sin/the moon. That means everyone. From the Amazonian tribe member to the high-end Western citizen, everyone has their mark of the betas. The cap at all name is just the stage/character name. If this is all true, how were the Matrix films able to slip through the cracks? Well, the Matrix movies were nothing more than a psychological experiment of the controlling elite to show a large portion of humanity our actual situation that we cannot see, so that they could observe how we would react to it. Chiron states he has hardly scratched the surface on the depths of these films.
Life and death is the paradoxical duality, which is a huge aspect of what the Freemasonic checkerboard pattern means. White is life and black is death. The one-eye symbolism is also used to portray this aspect as well, with the open eye indicating life and the covered eye signifying death. The prevalent and increased use of this symbol, especially in media and entertainment, is also due to the fact that we truly are approaching the galactic singularity point. Arity is a philosophical logic and mathematical noun that means the number of arguments that a function can take. This is related to the allegory of Jesus asking why God had forsaken him, seeing that the word forsaken is derived from the Old English forsaken, and saken meaning to dispute. It is all about algorithmic arguments, until the function of the one comes about, because the functioning of this construct cannot take any more disputes, arguments. Each of us is a singularity that forms a personal subjective view about this reality, which is in dispute with everyone else's viewpoint. A fax, as most people now know it, is a copy of an image, something artificial, which is sent from an original. That's what this matrix world is, a copy of the images of everything, and not the legitimate aspects. The moon is the projection screen or rood screen of this reality, which, as the word indicates, does it again. We are not living in ality, we are inside a reality, which is the copy of an image and not the original. It is ab-original, or from the original. This is shown by the moon-related Chinese word moni, which means simulation, imitation, analog. When this Chinese word is split apart into its prefix and suffix, we get mo, translated as mold, model, matrix, and the suffix of ni, that means draft, draw up, imitate, plan. That's the reason we live on this planet, planet, which is phonetically spoken as plan-it, because the archons have planned out this matrix, which is nothing more than a mold, model, imitation of the legitimate universe multiverse chorus that we are no longer participants in.
He includes some images from The Truman Show, one of my favorite films. I'm glad this one was included. Ed Harris is playing Christoph in The Truman Show. Ed sits inside the Moonbase hologram studio because he is the Christ of the moon production/projection. The only freedom one can attain is through knowledge. For example, learning how to grow your own food gives you more freedom than going to the grocery store. Learning to build your own home gives you more freedom than hiring someone else to build your home. Has anyone truly got what knowledge is power actually means? Knowledge is the key to our freedom, both in and out of this matrix system. The only economy that should exist is one where humanity trades and increases knowledge in all areas to set ourselves and each other free from all systems of usury. Not capitalism, communism, resource-based economies, republics, democrats, dictatorships, etc., etc. Those are all wrong. Nature and the neutrality of the heart is the key, and in this way we will again know it by heart. The most efficient way to communicate the ultimate solution to these things is the message of know thyself. This is why in the Matrix, the Oracle had the sign Temet Noske above her door, which means know thyself. When going through encounters during death, anything external to you is not you. It is not going to help you, it is deceiving you. He includes that scene from The Matrix where Neo is with Morpheus and Neo is trying to make sense of being inside a computer program. Morpheus explains how AI took over in the late 20th century.
Imagine, if you will, living on this world where there was no moon, and to everyone's memory there never was. Then, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, appears this huge object in the sky, the moon. What would everyone say? Most likely they would fearfully ask, "What is it?" Exactly. What is it? Just like the Hebrew and Greek words for manna have stated all along. What is it, or from where? It's the moon, manna, the foreign installment that took everything away from us and is the true enemy of mankind. When this initially took place, everyone naturally assumed that this object, the moon, was right inside of the stratosphere, because it technically is. This is the Trojan horse army that is hidden in the moon, continually destroying the environment of our minds, as shown by the Greek word stratos, meaning an army. This is where the English word stratosphere was derived, with the phonetic word fear attached at the end just for good measure. This proves out another aspect of the monetary symbol written as shown. Whenever anything has a line struck through it, this means that the symbol is no longer accepted or is ineffective. In the case of this symbol, the line struck through the S indicates a no, just like any other symbol that has a line crossed over it. It is a no symbol, and this symbol means that there is no money. Therefore, when you receive a statement from a bank or corporation stating that you owe something, they will write the numerical figures down with the symbol as shown preceding the numbers. They are automatically indicating that they want a number of things that they have written down as long as it isn't money. This symbol also indicates that the energy of S that was previously in the system is no longer available. That brings us to where we are in this galaxy, the Milky Way as some would have us call it. So here it is. We are in the desert. Just like there are deserts on this Earth construct, there are deserts in the galaxies, and we happen to be in one of the largest deserts in this particular galaxy. The Earth construct is actually the oasis of this desert, where space travelers can refuel, replenish, trade, etc. That aspect would be on only one level of this entire construct. The fact that we are in the desert may explain a lot to the listener as to why everything in our solar system pretty much looks lifeless. That's because it is. Just like any desert, there is very little life throughout most of it. Even within this inverted matrix, we find ourselves in one of the worst parts of this galaxy, and to top it off, are being used as energetic slaves. What needs to be understood is that there are systems and working orders that exist which are far beyond the comprehension of humanity, who are still for the most part bickering about whether or not alien life is real. What a farce! What does humanity think that humanity itself is? This is still a medieval times flat earth mentality, which believes that this speck of dust oasis in the desert is prime real estate, and if anything was going on, we would know about it. This is such a limited perspective, and it has not ever served us beneficially. Only those who have meditated intensely for years on many different levels will see the truth of these statements.
Near the end, he includes this interesting quote by Friedrich Nietzsche. The individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe. If you try it, you'll be lonely often, and sometimes frightened. But no price is too high to pay for the privilege of owning yourself. I am aware Occult Christmas was uploaded before the Golden Web Part 3, but I put it here because I do what I want. While the Golden Web series draws ties to a multitude of concepts, Occult Christmas draws all ties back to just one: Christmas. This video starts with 2 minutes of this creepy ass stop-motion Christmas animation. Chiron talks about how Romans used to celebrate Christmas and compares Jesus to Dionysus.
What exactly is Christmas? And what are the astounding implications that go along with this so-called celebration? If one looks to the Romans, they celebrated this point of time in the yearly calendar in what was known as Saturnalia, which was an orgiastic festival in Rome that honored Saturn. During this time of year, each December, were 12 days of excessive eating, drinking, promiscuity, and sexual orgies, as well as every kind of debauchery that one can imagine. This is where the modern 12 days of Christmas has its links, with the number 12 being symbolic of the 12 months on the calendar, but more importantly in the Roman era, the 12 ages of the zodiac. Less known is the fact that this celebration was also known as Bacchanalia, which was tied to Dionysus, who is typically depicted as carrying around a thyrsus, which is a staff that is tipped with a pine cone. This is the same staff that is symbolically carried around by the various popes of the Vatican. The word Bacchus is a Latin noun that means kind of sea fish, and also translates as god of wine or vine, connecting Dionysus to the Jesus character who is associated with the fish and is also a god of wine, as depicted in the biblical allegory of Jesus turning water into wine, alluding to the fact that the water in our body turns into wine or blood. The sus from Jesus, sus, is a Latin word that means swine, pig, and a kind of fish, showing us in the words that Jesus, sus, truly is another formation of the Dionysus character. Add in the aspects of being a swine and pig, and we have the connection to the festival that honors Saturn with its excessive drinking, eating, partying, sexuality, and debauchery. By doing all of this, one is displaying themselves as a pig.
He shows images of rampant consumerism, presenting what this holiday has unfortunately become. And at this point, I'm thinking, what are you doing, Mr. Last? You are ruining my favorite holiday. Compares the word liturgy to litter-G, as in the letter G, representing Saturn, the left dead sun. Humans are the litter of G. During Christmas, we embark on traditions that communicate to the extraterrestrials that we are feeding ourselves to them. We put up pine trees because the pine cone is a symbol of the pineal gland. The tree then represents the pineal gland and the tree of life, which is the human spine. Through putting boxes of Saturn worship under the trees, humans are symbolizing giving away their pineal glands. We see how the North Pole, where Santa/Satan lives, is related to the North Pole of Saturn. The cube of Saturn, when unfolded, forms a cross, another symbol of this holiday. Santa/Satan rides on a sleigh, which is phonetically slay, S-L-A-Y, and goes down the chimney, which represents the chimney of the human spine. The ribs represent the antlers of the allegorical reindeer that carry Satan/Santa/Say-10, X chromosome of the moon, to the spine, which is the chimney and the tree. The ribs are then slain, which leaves the X and Y chromosomes close to the chimney of the spine to be given/collected by Satan/Santa. As can also be seen, the rib cage is the bee's nest for the spine, where the golden honey plasma is made through the spinal ionization process and cathodic crossing of the heart. The ribs also represent the branches of the Christmas tree, DNA to spine. We examine what the prefix rein means in reindeer, and we examine how the word natal translates to Christmas, as well as birthplace/place of origin.
Santa is an anagram for Satan, and Satan is Say-10, which is the X chromosome of the moon. X is the Roman numeral for 10 and the binary code of matrix DNA duality that was created within us to keep the X tension cord of energy going for Saturn, which is celebrated and energetically symbolized through the December events of Saturnalia, which now simply goes under the name of Christmas. The same Christmas that celebrates Satan, Old Nick, as a purveyor of gifts, when in fact it is the other way around. Saint Nick, Old Nick, is, by basic definition, the chief spirit of evil and adversary of God, who is the tempter of mankind and master of hell. Still not convinced? The Indonesian word setan translates into English as Old Nick, and Old Nick translates into the Turkish language as Shaitan and Iblis, both sharing the translated synonyms of demon, devil, Satan, adversary, Old Harry, and the evil one. The Filipino language concurs with Old Nick, becoming Satanas, And the Finnish language has the word piru, meaning devil, Dickens, Old Nick. In part 2, I also showed how the ren in chilled ren is the Latin word for kidneys, name of a precious stone, and the Swedish ren, that means clean, clear, pure, which obviously connects in the language web with the German rein and Dutch rein, pure, virgin, clean, chaste, etc. The kidneys obviously also help our biology cleanse everything, which makes it clean, clear, and pure. This is why there is also reincarnation, because a carnation is a flower, and we produce the pure virgin flower, more sexual innuendo, to make the bread, who are reincarnated, which are virgin, clean, clear, and pure, all over again.
There's a comparison of deer to candy canes to the spinal column. Talks about etymological comparisons derived from the word do, this being a concept he brings up quite a few times throughout this video. We'll loop back into making some connections between the banking and court system. This holiday involves a lot of racking up debt, and the word rack has torturous connotations behind it.
Massive amounts of personal cap-it-all debt is accumulated during the so-called holiday shopping season. People rack up debt, and a rack is another torture device that was used by the sea merchant creditors, seeing that it is by definition something that stretches, disjoints, and mutilates victims who are placed upon it. This is related back to the Christmas allegory, the judge on the bank bench, pine trees, and the pineal gland that is being mentally tortured through the Norwegian word pinbank, which translates as rack. The prefix of pin is the Norwegian term for torture, and the suffix word bank is Norwegian for bench. Therefore, the pineal gland, pine tree of the spine, is receiving torture on the rack from the judge who sits on the bench. To rack up debt is not a meaningless and empty saying. It has torturous connotations and intentions behind it.
He summarizes how the moon is the white light false savior we encounter upon death. Sometimes we refer to this holiday as Xmas. Chiron breaks down what both the X and Miss means. He also describes the metaphorical significance of the biblical story of Samson and Delilah, stating this story means the moon was unlocking the sun. The Star of David, or Saturn star, will make its great comeback once the Israel keys have all been unlocked. This will be the return of the king, or Lord of the Rings, the red dragon of old, the phoenix that rises from the ashes, etc. He provides a metaphor of the war going on in Israel. Keep in mind this was posted around 2013-2014. El, spelled E-L, is a name we hear quite a few times throughout this. The 1111 phenomena indicates that L is even. So we heard about Christmas, but what about Christmas Eve? Well, he gets into that too.
X is also the 24th letter of the English alphabet, and Xmas Eve is celebrated on the 24th day of December, which indicates the Eve electron antichrist light of the moon with its genetic double-crossing X chromosomes. The 25th letter of the English alphabet is Y, which is the male Y genetic chromosome that is gelded and taken from the sack, bag of presents, sexual symbolism, by Santa Satan on the 25th, and the evening 24th of Christmas, by those who placed it symbolically underneath their pine trees as a gift to Santa Satan, Old Nick, who comes up the chimney, spinal column, and takes the gifts away from everyone as he slays the ribs, antlers that carry the chromosomes while riding around the world on his sleigh of reindeer.
Putting up Christmas lights celebrates the giving of our colored DNA chromosomes to the gods of Saturn in the form of gifts. The elves have some pretty creepy connotations behind them.
The story of the Christmas elves further entrenches the aspect of Satanism in this tradition, because an elf, by definition, is a mischievous fairy that carries the synonyms of devil, fairy, imp. Throughout ancient folklore, Satan always had helpers that were portrayed as small imps, elves, and the abbreviation of ELF, elf, stands for extremely low frequency, or anything below 3 kHz. This is where the jinn smokeless fire demons exist, and even fire itself exists on a lower frequency level, which is why we need to raise the frequency in our reality through friction, heat, to bring about fire. The HAARP, High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program, has been sending out low-frequency waves into the ionosphere, seeing that the word elves is a scientific acronym for emissions of light and very low-frequency perturbations due to electromagnetic pulse sources. Extremely bright and extremely short, less than a millisecond, electrical flashes forming a huge ring up to 400 kilometers in diameter in the ionosphere. The extremely low frequency elf vibrations are the helpers of Santa, Satan. The scientists who created the ELVES acronym call it a whimsical acronym, and whimsical means that something is determined by chance, impulse, or whim, instead of by necessity or reason. So there it is. The scientists are telling everyone that they don't even understand why they chose the acronym ELVES to describe this electromagnetic communication process. Because that's exactly what it is, a means of communication between the government military elite and the interdimensional ETs that control this whole operation.
He provides a prediction on the destruction of the Hoover Dam. Once they take out the Hoover Dam and blame it on terrorists, this will serve as the metonymy event to indicate to everyone that the Virgin Mary's water has broken, and the moon will be giving birth to her son not long after, giving birth to the sun that no one has seen yet. Now, this does not make me feel holly nor jolly. Oh, great, so the word holly probably has some sinister connotations behind that as well.
By participating in the traditions of this holy day, holiday season on these particular days of the year, people are funneling their energy into the Satan Clause contract, which gives the moon our holly spine. Yeah, even the word holly is a part of this, because we are the holy spirits that are under the spell of the druidic priests with their wood of holly wood manifested magic.
As a finale, we see a quote from Manly P. Hall from The Secret Teaching of All Ages. He who comprehends the mystery of the sacramental cup possesses the key to human regeneration. Man, crucified, passes through death upon the symbol of life and attains to life upon the symbol of death. The break between the self and the not-self is thus complete, and the spirit, emerging from its chrysalis, leaves the empty shell behind as the token of its attainment. The agony of the Savior, consequently, is not the agony of death, but the agony of birth. Only to him who has found his life by losing it is the mystery comprehensible. As previously mentioned, Chiron states it is not wise for one to celebrate one's birthday. I can only assume from Occult Christmas that he does not celebrate Christmas either. Perhaps he does not celebrate any holidays at all, including the 4th of July. A Canadian who doesn't celebrate the 4th of July. They exist. It is now the 2020s. Some things have changed, but Chiron Last still sees the vitality of uploading his videos. While the Golden Web series is Chiron's most iconic work, 88 Keys may be the most important. Because while the Golden Web points to the problems, 88 Keys points to the solution. This video begins with outlining how to attain the eternal, being truly free from desire.
The eternal can never be attained through the repetitive pursuit of temporary satisfactions. When you are truly free from desire, the very root of it has been pulled up and is no longer part of you. Then you are also free from anxiety, worry, fear, and all of the rest of these elements that coerce you into chasing after everything that you feel separated from. There is then a total comprehension of why there is nowhere to go. A total comprehension of being completely content, of being complete. Convincing yourself that you are in this state and legitimately being in it are quite different qualities. So long as there is the desire to chase after anything, there is still desire, and thus the seeds remain sown into the root of your being, which are able to continue growing and manifesting the whole structure of the problem. As long as there is desire, there can never be freedom, and the fight against this fact creates all kinds of anguish, fear, and self-pity. Self-pity which buries itself once again into egotism, which propels you to chase after your own ideas to begin the same process all over again. An endless chase after nothing.
People need to learn how to see in the dark. The word entirety can be rearranged into eternity. Chiron keeps questioning where is the heart and says his message is going to change soon. The weight of the truth is coming. His use of technology to get these messages out was a use of necessary evil. Can just one person make a difference? Chiron states individual contribution is still contribution, which is why the little is the big. One must ask themselves the question of what have you done for others?
Each of us is either in service to the eternal and the truth, or we are solely in service to ourselves, which is a fiction. Another way of putting this, it is to be in service to the heart and the infinite, or to be in service to the mind and the limited. What we take from the earth, we take from ourselves. The user is the used. What a terrible bargain to have traded the unfathomable magic of the spirit for the fleeting mirages of physical gratification. The external savior program completely caters to this mentality, and how many have been caught up in the external fifth dimension outside savior program, believing that one has done their research, is aware of the general deceptions here, is emanating some perceived proper amount of positivity, and will one day soon be vibrated into some type of higher plane of existence? There is no difference between this belief and any other religious notion of a heavenly afterlife whereby a person's biological imprint will be carried into the infinite beyond. There is only one key that opens the gates to the eternal kingdom, and a sheer belief in being transported to some alternate reality or fifth dimension is not that key. Instead, the question that needs to be asked is this: what have I done today for my brothers and sisters that have fallen behind me? In this human race where everyone is trying to get ahead in the pursuit of building temporary little empires, who is looking behind themselves to see who has been left behind? Who is doing everything they can to lift the spirit of those who have fallen right to the bottom of this world, which is a place with the least amount of light?
Here we see what this video comes down to. The message of be last, which I presume is why he named his channel what he did. The heart always finds a way. It always finds something to give. It finds the spirit.
Always be asking, what have I done today for my brothers and sisters that have fallen behind me? This indicates automatically that one should be last. If any want to comprehend the true meaning behind the symbol of last, this is the essential meaning. Be last. When one is last, not one of our fellow brothers and sisters are left behind. Not one. Be last in the so-called human race, and pick up those who have fallen behind instead of always looking ahead.
Those who see a certain symbol will walk the path of courage. The symbol has been obvious, but very few have paid attention. The most obvious sign of this symbol is in a digital clock displaying no time, which looks like 8888. The indication of no time means one has run out of time.
A standard piano has 88 keys, all black and white to indicate the paradox of this realm of ones and zeros. The manufacturer Steinway developed this standard in the 1880s, which connects the symbol again. The 88 in the middle of the paradox. 88, it needs to be pointed out, is also two infinity signs, which gives the polarity of the two eternal sides of the checkerboard reality that are playing on this game board of life. The battle between good and evil, as it were.
The symbolism of 88 shows up all over the place. Every year, 8.8 million tons of plastic ends up in the ocean. Every year, 8.8 million people die from cancer, and 8.8 million die from air pollution. 8.8 million barrels of finished gas were consumed in the US per day in 2021. In Back to the Future, the time machine car needed to hit 88 miles per hour in order to manufacture a time paradox. These signs are written in the stars, as there are officially 88 constellations. There are 8.8 billion habitable Earth-sized planets existing in the Milky Way alone. He concludes this message with the exact same screen as he began it, attaining eternity by being truly free from desire. The message is be last. For the first few years of elementary, I attended a Baptist school. When it would come time for lunch, us kids would have a competition to see who could be the first in line. These competitions were aggressive. The teacher, obviously annoyed by all of this, taught us a lesson from the good book. She said, "He who is first shall be last, and he who is last shall be first in the kingdom of heaven." Lining up for lunch changed after this lesson. It was no longer a fight to see who could be in the first position. It was a fight to see who could be in the last position. Way more pushing and shoving and screaming ensued, because it wasn't about seeing who could get to lunch fast. It was about seeing who could avoid hell. I tell this story because comprehending the words is different from comprehending the meaning. Us kids completely understood the words we were being taught, but we were no better because of it. We can say we understand the words be last, but do we truly understand the meaning of be last? Now, am I so wise that I understand the profound meaning of this? No. Refer to the story I just told. I'm literally in that story. I have no further thoughts to express on this, only questions I must ask myself. To ask who is Chiron Last may be a loaded question. How does one even begin to answer this? Though this man remains completely anonymous, we do end up seeing a glimpse of him in his later videos. Perhaps not a glimpse of his mind, but instead a glimpse of his heart. Before we can ask who is Chiron Last, perhaps we must first answer what happened to Chiron Last. During the final year Chiron had his channel up, things started changing. His video titled The Sacred did not present any text or images. He just spoke over a black screen. He talks about how he will begin speaking with no visuals and instead treat his videos as a normal conversation.
From this point on, I'm going to, with the rest of my available time that I have, speak without any visuals. Thus, everything from this point should be considered to be just like a conversation. I'm going to speak plainly, and hopefully a better understanding will come about for everyone who is listening and participating in these conversations. One way that I prefer to see it is, what would it be like to sit at some of your kitchen tables while having a cup of tea? Perhaps we could treat this like that. Many of you have been hearing and watching what has been brought forth on here for years,
And I want you to realize that I have also treated my responsibility as a sacred duty. To symbolically take on the designation of teacher is not something that I have ever handled carelessly. I very much have always known the potential weighty impact that spiritual instruction can have on an individual. It can change absolutely everything, but it should always be known that one has to take responsibility for their own choices and actions too. As I've said before, blame is lame. But when one takes total responsibility for themselves, then the consequences of one's choices have the potential to bring forth enormous meaning.
In the video, See in the Dark, he talks about how he is practicing to see in the dark by not creating formal works and instead kind of just improvising. The screens, again, are pitch black because that's how everything will soon be, all in the dark. He is setting out to answer the question, why do we die? Which is ultimately what he is preparing for. He suggests he is a bum, asks multiple times, what does a homeless person have to offer you? And this relates to the fact that death leaves everyone homeless. All he has to offer is his heart, and the heart is all he's going to be talking about from here on out. Only one who has lost everything can gain everything. He states there will be no Golden Web Part 4 because it's time to get out of the web.
It's a very, very narrow gate. And if you are truly done with being a prisoner on the ride of death, then you're going to have to be ready to be kicked out into the cold and rendered completely homeless. That's the consequence of death. Do you get it? Home is where the heart is, and given enough time, death ultimately destroys the home entirely, thus inevitably rendering everyone homeless.
As his videos go on, he keeps reiterating he's a bum and to unsubscribe and not listen to him. Eventually, he straight up states he's homeless. He sounds a lot more rough. He's yelling at points, stating that every day is a fight. He states his approach to his message is going to change, and he will be stating some things he has not stated before. He will have more breaks of silence in his words. And he specifies he's homeless because you cannot set up roots in the wrong kingdom. When we get to the video that tells of the devil, things really start to change. He says we are living in hell. That's not a metaphor, this place is literally hell. He's straight up yelling for practically this entire thing, saying there's a war going on. He says things like, if you think I'm passionate now with my revelations, just wait until the revelations of the street. He says things like, the swarms are coming. Revelations of the street? Swarms are coming? What is going on here? I abstain from making comments here, as he claims people who make comments about him are literally jacking each other off in the comments. His words, not mine. States the earth is the heart, and now he is the heart. Keeps stating the impossible will happen. One of the biggest mysteries in here is how he talks about how he is the key, and he keeps referring to a she and a her. He says she is going to need more help than you can imagine, and he says she is the door, and he is the key. The background audio of this, it sounds like he's under an overpass. And the passion he's expressing now is just a drop in the ocean of the passion he truly has. The Filters Are Strong was his most disturbing video to date. He talks about how the sun and the moon will no longer be able to produce light, and to survive you will have to be locked down for a little over 2 years. What happened in 2020 is just a preview for what is to come. He states that next summer, which doing the math would be summer 2024, you won't be able to travel by plane unless you are a billionaire. And billionaires are building bunkers right now in preparation for something. Although you can tell by his accent, Chiron specifies he's from Canada and clarifies he is walking to somewhere in the western United States. He clarifies that her is an actual person, an actual human being in a flesh monkey meat suit, as he calls it. He has never shown his face, but he says he will reveal what his face looks like as soon everyone will see his face. He also clarifies he does not consume meat. He keeps stating people will need to become lighthouses in the dark that is to come. Says nothing will be able to grow out of the ground this next summer. He states those who are preppers on the west side of Canada and the west side of the United States will be playing a very important role at this time. Says there will be what we can only call a zombie apocalypse of sorts. That The Walking Dead will not be a fictional story. Keeps saying time is running out until everything goes dark. States that everyone will see him as soon as he is on the walk, as it will be displayed worldwide, and everyone will see the impossibilities happen. He encourages people to book a plane ticket to the west side of Canada/United States to partake in the walk if they are taking things seriously. These were videos I listened to right before bed one night. It's safe to say I did not sleep too well at this time. So who knows? If you see a man on the national news partaking in what he calls the walk, that man could be Chiron Last. If not on the national news, then maybe on the local news, which may perhaps be a more tragic outcome. When we get to the video Change the Approach, things revert back to a little more calm and collected. He states his approach will be different, as he will begin speaking in a different way, as he saw he was being set up through his last approach of yelling and being passionate. He claims he's not a savior nor a deity, and he does not intend to be a cult leader.
I'm being set up right now. I know what the next move against me, their intention is, which means that I have to, unfortunately, back off in certain ways and change my approach in these messages once again. This is how it works, because it's all set up. This whole reality, this culture, is set up like a chess game. And I'm just a pawn, just like everyone else here. I'm no different. I'm a prisoner in this system, just like everyone else. I'm not some person who's setting himself up as a deity or some kind of figurehead to be looked up to and put on a pedestal. I've never done that. I've never said to do that. I'm bringing a message. That message has been brought. I'm not going to keep banging on that same drum. For those who have heard it and will understand it, it has been said. And those who don't and are influenced by the zombie copy robots, then you're going to be influenced by them. There's nothing I can do about that. Do what you will. I'm no leader of anything. Everyone just go live your life. Just go live your life exactly how you see fit. And you'll see what you see. Or you won't. The end. See how that is? See, that's the new approach, because I know I'm being set up if I carry forward by banging the drum. It's just wanting to set me up. And look, he's psychotic. It's a Jim Jones cult. It's just hilarious, these artificial intelligences. They didn't think I would have the vision to see through their strategy, their chess move that they were trying to pin on me next. So I'm a bum. I'm a homeless bum. I'm making that crystal clear. I'm no leader. No teacher. No one to follow. I'm going to be going on a walk in the not too distant future. But I'm a homeless bum going on a walk. And maybe, I don't know, maybe some other homeless bums who realize that they're in a really bad place, a really dark place, may want to go on a walk too, heading in the same direction. I don't know. I mean, I'm going to go on that walk alone. And maybe other people will want to go on a walk alone, but maybe they might want to head in the same direction. But I'm no one to follow. Just keep that in mind. I'm a homeless bum, and no one follows a homeless bum. That's obvious, right? Society, look at that. That's a homeless bum. That's not someone to follow or listen to, obviously. That's just obvious. So I am no leader. I'm no messiah. My goodness. Like a savior? Gee, no, I'm no savior. That's for sure. I'm making that crystal clear. I am no savior. Unsubscribe. Unsubscribe. For sure.
Now, if he's homeless, how is he making videos? He specifies he's recording this audio on a phone that somebody threw out, and he's uploading these videos using free public library Wi-Fi. The video, Ready or Not, was recorded on April 20th, 2023. He sounds nervous in this one, stating he's backed into a corner, and the last few days have not been easy. He hammers the point over and over again on how you're going to have to do this yourself. There is no outside savior. You're going to have to carry your own cross, so to speak, that cross being your physical body. The classroom is dark, really emphasizes a message he's trying to send through recording his voice to only a black screen. He mentions the classroom is dark, and he has taken his message to the streets. He refers to technology in a very negative tone. Now, the obvious statement anyone has to say through these apocalyptic warnings is they say, okay, anytime someone says the end is near, nothing happens. Chiron states more of the Earth gets ravaged every time an end comes near. For example, way more of the Earth became ravaged after the 2012 apocalypse. He clarifies he uses inflection to convey specific messages, and he's not here to influence anyone. Everyone is free to make their own personal choices. He tells everyone to live their life as they see fit, repeating that blame is lame, and listening to him is your own choice. He sees his channel, just like Will Smith was in the film I Am Legend, when he's just been talking to mannequins during the apocalypse, but he puts out a message on a radio to ask, is anyone out there real in the sea of walking zombies? There is an analogy here that being with the masses is like being in a camp.
The amount of information that one has to sift through to understand the level of deception and what's going on, the amount of deceit, the amount of lies, the amount of just general evil that's going on, it becomes overwhelming once you start to dig into it truly. For the vast majority, even one thing was too much. You just told them there's fluoride in the water and they almost wanted to faint, and just literally throw you up against the wall and say, who are you to tell me what reality is? They couldn't even handle being told there's fluoride in the water, let alone you tell them everything else. Oh, by the way, you're stuck in an endless reincarnation cycle slave system of hell. Oh, yeah, forget it. It's just not going to happen. And so, yeah, this system, it wants to pick people that it feels are vulnerable. Recommend this channel to vulnerable people. And, oh, you're messing me up. I'm all messed up now. I'm doing things I wouldn't have ever done because I've been listening to your message. And that's just a bunch of crap. That's just a play of this system to attempt to try to corner me in some way again. And that's why I reiterate, and I'm being
repetitive in my clarity because it's necessary. You will make your decisions how you will, the end. If you want to listen to this message or any of my messages for any length of time, that's your choice. That's on you. Just all deceptions and lies, stacked on top of each other. It just wants you to remain in its cave system. Another way that I looked at it metaphorically for myself years ago was to call it camp instead. So as one moves away from camp, if you will, and goes on their journey, and then sees just things that no one was talking about before, and then goes back to camp and starts saying, hey, did you ever hear about this or notice this? And then all the people in camp are looking at you going, what the hell are you talking about? All there is camp. There's nothing out there. Where did you even go? What are you going on about? Did you do drugs? And so on, right? The seeker of truth just ignores that. And they journey out a little further and they keep coming back to camp. But the next time they come back, they've seen even more. And then it sounds even crazier to those in camp. And of course, one can use the cave analogy as the same thing. You can go back to the cave instead. You go back to the cave and look at all those who are just chasing their shadows. And the shadows are just things like chasing money, chasing a career, chasing sex, chasing all these things. These are the addictions that just take over the individual. When enough of them take over the individual, they're just drunk in the excess of it all. Drunk on the highs that all of these chases deliver. This is the same message that I brought forth right from the beginning of the Golden Web. Think about it. You're being used as food, energy, for an energetic vampire system. But because maybe the tone of my voice was a little different, that message was easier to swallow. It's the same message. It's just as dark. You liked that version of the same message better? Almost 9 years ago, it's the exact same thing. I'm not bringing forth a different message. Same exact message. It's just being spoken in the dark as a reflection of how dark the truth of what we face actually is and what it's all about. That's what evil is. It's darkness. That's what death is. Death is darkness.
In the video, there is no walk. Things change again. As he states, there is no walk. I suppose whether or not this is true will depend on whether or not we see him make the impossible possible. Again, he says to follow nobody and to unsubscribe. Says there's going to be a setup if he is seen as influencing people to become homeless. Clarifies he's not actually telling people to go on the walk. Everyone is making their own choices. He says the heart teaches many lessons, and he's learning these lessons. Things always change.
So this is the declaration. There's no walk that I'm telling you to go on, where I'm going to be there. See, that's the thing with a spiritual battle, a spiritual war. Things change on the fly. And they go to extremes. This is why I'm talking about extremities. There's a lot of lessons to be learned from all of this. A lot. But I need to make it clear as to why the setup is a thing. This needs to be understood. So look at how it's sending its minions, if you will, to say, no, I'm still going to go out west. I'm going to go on the walk. I'm going to become homeless. Well, of course, see, that's the setup. And then people leave their job. They get rid of all their belongings. They fly somewhere out west. They don't even know where. And they're just on the streets, let's say. Have never experienced even a day on the streets. Don't even have a clue what it's actually like to be homeless and be on the streets. Not at all. And of course, something will happen. You know, they'll get injured.
they'll get in a fight, whatever. They'll wind up in the hospital, and then questions will be asked, well, what happened? You know, where are you from? So on and so forth, these types of things. Oh, I'm from Europe. Well, you're from Europe? What are you doing here? Oh, I came to do this walk that this person on YouTube was talking about. And it's a way to get out of hell. And then, of course, you see the can of worms that gets opened up. Oh, gee whiz, you just did that? You know, because of listening to some person on the internet? Oh, man, this is crazy. We got to find out who this person is and put a stop to it, because it looks like you're not the only one affected. There's other people, a lot of other people doing the same thing. And you can see how the setup continues to escalate from there. And, of course, then the authorities are called in. They find me, arrest me, lock me up, etc., etc.
He iterates over and over. He is only stating what he believes, not what people should believe as fact. Says there's no way for him to repeat the lessons he's been expressing this whole time. His project can never be replicated again, and only a few realized there was a lesson. He talks about how he is throwing himself under the bus for the truth, and how a lot of artificiality is flooding the comment sections of his videos. The true preparation is to stay in check while hit with immensity, because in the future we will be hit with a real emergency with immensities that cannot be ignored. The next string of videos are more broad. He's repeating general ideas rather than events or his own experience. Says not to put him on a pedestal, not to thank him for anything. Giving praise is of the same coin as pride. There is no need for thank yous to expressions of the heart. Compliments are for the gutter. And one must face death alone. Completely alone.
But yeah, when it comes to choices and ultimates and those thresholds, we need to face them as individuals, and that's what this message comes down to. You can't face these choices as a group. It's just not possible. And many will try to convince you that it is possible, or that they have some say in regards to it, or that they'll be able to protect you in some way. And that's just not the truth at all. Really go into it. Who can protect you from death? Can your parents? Can your friends? Can those closest to you, your husband, your wife? Anyone? From ultimates? Or do you have to face these alone as an individual? Which, when faced with that cold, hard truth, and it's a heavy truth to take in, are you going to be able to see that and stand in courage to face these choices, to face these immensities? Or do you kowtow and become a coward and then just fall into the arms of the crowd, who will disappear one by one? That crowd will be dispersed and they will disappear one by one until they're all gone, and you end up as an individual anyways.
He makes clear there is no future here when observing what is done to the earth/heart. The earth being the heart. We are not in our bodies, we're just in these monkey meat suits. Chiron is calling this reality a cancer and a cancer toilet. These are the terms he refers to repeatedly. When one has lost everything, only then will they understand what creation is going through. One either sees what is happening or they don't, and this is our statement to eternity.
Unless one has poured the totality of themselves, their whole heart, the entirety of their inheritance, all into absolutely everything that they've done, and then had everything taken away from them, absolutely everything destroyed, annihilated,
decimated. Unless that has happened to an individual, it can't be understood what the earth is going through, what the heart is going through. It can't be comprehended whatsoever. As I said, one either gets it and sees what's being done, or one doesn't. And these become one's statements and declarations to all of creation as well. The heart, which is just pouring everything out. And who's listening, who's paying attention truly, and not treating it like a frickin' circus joke. It's done. It's out of gas. The joke is over. The earth isn't going to be propping this shit up, this circus shit show up, for very much longer whatsoever. But go ahead and mock that. There's no argument here. Go ahead and make your disdainful statement to eternity. Please do. Creation hears you. It hears you loud and clear.
A question that is often asked is, if this is hell, literally hell, why do things not seem as bad as they could be? Chiron keeps stating this is hell's version of heaven. Everyone is still asleep and ignoring the alarms. He is homeless, but we will all be without a home, without the earth, as the earth is a home. He encourages people to get rid of all distractions and to go inward to find the answers. He encourages multiple times to get sober and stay sober, as one needs to stay on high alert. If your house is burning down, you don't try to rationalize staying in that house, you get out of that house by any means necessary. He keeps stating there's a rare opportunity, a narrow gate, to get out of this burning house. There are buffers we use to prevent understanding the truth. For example, whether or not one can consume murder meat is part of the vision test. There are multiple vision tests in this experience. The nature of the human race is like an actual race getting across a finish line, but nobody is number one. So be asking the right questions to avoid the reincarnation trap. The vision test is seeing with the heart. Willingness to change is part of the inheritance. It's part of free will.
It is known everywhere in what is commonly called a race, what is known as a race, that the one who reaches the end, the finish line first, is declared the winner. They're said to be number one, and therefore they get the reward, they get the prize, they get the medal, the honors, the accolades, so on and so forth. It's the one who reaches the end, the first, that gets this. It could very well be said that this is exactly what the human race is constantly seeking, to be the first to reach the end. How many are searching for the end of the week so that they can have fun on the weekend? The end of the month so they can reach their paycheck. The end of the relationship that one no longer enjoys so they can find another new one. The end of the project someone's working on so they can start another one because they're bored of the one that they're working on. Just constantly searching for endings. And of course, that's exactly what this system of death is all about. Is about the continuity of that search. To create another goal to chase after the tail of the dog, which is the devil's tail, obviously, that everyone is caught in to some degree or another. That's just a fact. It's a constant searching for endings for that finish line. Of course, when related to the actuality of who is number one, legitimately, well, it's no one. No one is number one in the human race. Another way of abbreviating the word number is to spell it out as N and O with a period at the end. So it actually just reads as no. So to say
number one is to actually say no one. That would indicate a nobody. So no one is number one, or a nobody is, in point of fact, number one in the human race, because the one who actually doesn't lose is the one who doesn't race at all, who's not interested in any of this human race, which always meets that deadline, that ending, and doesn't win a damn thing. So the vision test is all about who sees correctly. Where is the heart? Who are the ones asking the correct questions? And absolutely there are correct questions, because it is a quest, a vision quest. And if one doesn't ask the right questions, they're going to be steered off course. They're going to go in wrong directions. They're going to again follow the mind, which just brings one back into the darkness, being steered away again from the heart. Only 18 inches, that journey, but my goodness, one can be caught in the reincarnation system for an endless amount of lifetimes, not able to traverse the distance of that 18 inches, close the gap. So then one reaches the finish line again in whatever corpse that they're wearing right now, and then, oh, so close, so close. Just didn't quite reach the heart that time yet again. Oh, don't worry, you'll eventually get another chance. But I mean, you got to go back down into the even worse place once you reach death. Of course, because death is the harvester, and it tosses you into its stomach. So the vision test, that's what it's all about. It's about seeing with your heart. Where's the heart? All of eternity is asking this question all of the time. And when one finally gets out of the labyrinth of the mind, falls into the heart, and then sees, actually sees where they are and what's going on, then everything changes. Then one has to change. It's about taking it serious and knowing that no one has the perfect vision here. No one. Willingness to change. That's free will. That's the gift that each of us has as part of the inheritance. It's really the largest part. The ability to choose what's being presented in front of us. And is one going to make the correct choice? See the angles, and then choose not to miss this time.
Chiron states this whole system is held together by practically shoestring and bubblegum, and every day he is in shock that the entire system doesn't just collapse. He says to be wary of people that make a living off of spreading the truth. The final video with speaking in it was titled Everything Changes or Nothing Changes. In many ways, this final video encapsulated his message. The earth has turned itself into a living hell. It is every man for himself. And to get ahead is to get a head, because it is all just in the mind. Again, when you are first, you have nothing to look forward to, but when you are last, you have everything to look forward to.
Hierarchies are evil through and through, and nothing of it is free. Nothing. That needs to disappear along with the rest of the entire wrong setup, wrong vision, wrong system that has infected the earth, has infected the heart. And it is going to disappear completely. A new world absolutely will come forth. It has to. There's no choice. Because if it doesn't, there's not going to be an earth. There's not going to be a heart. That's why there's no choice. So one either gets busy listening to the emptiness of the mind, or one remains in silence and listens to life, listens to the heart, which has everything, actually everything to offer, all of eternity. Is one seen the last of a thing, the last of anything? outside of themselves and within themselves. As one paid attention or just wanted to just hear their own noise that they call their mind over and over again, just circling and getting nowhere. It is the last of a thing. It is the last of everything. And either everything changes or nothing changes.
Everything Changes or Nothing Changes was not Chiron's final video. His final video was 40 seconds of a black screen with just a period as its title. Well, most of the comments in this re-upload are people expressing how Chiron Last changed their perspectives and people saying they hope this man is doing well. There is one comment in particular that stands out. The original video was made around June 25th of this year, if I remember correctly, and 40 weeks from this video was made is the first week of April 2024. Same week as the American total solar eclipse will happen. Cannot be coincidence. 40 weeks of silence. A few months after this video, Chiron Last deleted his account. The date was September 11th. The number of videos he had uploaded had totaled 119, signifying that this project was his emergency call. Do I recommend everybody listen to Chiron Last? That depends. Do you recommend everyone try acid? To be overwhelmed by copious amounts of data you aren't entirely sure how to analyze can be a daunting experience. While everyone can learn something from this content, it is not for everyone. And those who resonate with this content would ideally understand that better than anyone. For as much as I have included in this review, there are many parts I intentionally did not include. I can use my context clues to make the assumption there are ideas Chiron Last also intentionally did not include. Again, regardless of how you view these ideas, the necessity is to understand why you view them the way you do. It is vital to continue seeking knowledge in order to come to your own conclusions, and not just copy what Chiron Last or what anyone else tells you. The rabbit hole, by its very nature, goes deep. We must fully embrace our awareness and discretion on this journey. We can hear many perspectives, and we can learn many things. One of which being, what happened to Chiron Last?